Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. I didn't expect anything unusual that afternoon. The laundry basket was full, and the sunlight pouring in through the living room window made the whole house feel soft and quiet. I had just finished folding a pair of his shirts when I heard footsteps behind me. It wasn't the sound itself that caught my attention, it was the way it stopped just short of me. That kind of pause, it meant something. We'd been married for 5 years. He's American, I'm from a small town in Russia, and somehow our worlds collided and stuck together. Some days felt like a fairy tale, others like we were just two people surviving the routine. But that day, something shifted. When he touched my shoulder, it wasn't sudden. It was gentle. Deliberate. I turned, half smiling, expecting some casual question, maybe something about dinner or plans for the weekend. But his eyes, they were searching mine like he hadn't really looked at me in months. Like he was seeing me again after a long absence, even though we shared the same space every single day. I missed this, he said quietly. I didn't know what this meant at first. The laundry? The closeness? Or maybe that simple, unspoken tenderness that can go missing when life gets too busy. And in that moment, everything around us slowed down. The folded clothes, the half-empty basket, the sound of the dryer in the background, it all became part of a memory being written in real time. We didn't need big gestures or dramatic speeches. Just that quiet connection, the way his hand brushed mine as he reached for a towel, the way I suddenly forgot what I was doing because his presence changed everything. But what happened next, I never expected. His expression changed, not in a bad way, but in a way that made my heart race with both hope and uncertainty. What was on his mind? Was it just affection, or was there something deeper he wanted to say? Our marriage has seen laughter, stress, disagreements, passion, and so many ordinary moments that have become quietly beautiful. But sometimes, love reawakens in the most mundane situations. Like folding laundry. And this was just the beginning of something unexpected. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to know, have you ever felt something shift between you and your partner without a single word? Just a glance, a touch, a pause? Let me know in the comments. Was it love rekindling, or something else stirring beneath the surface? Vote in the poll below. Basket a sweet memory from the past, speech balloon an unspoken conflict surfacing, beating heart a quiet moment of reconnection. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the next part of this heartfelt story. You won't want to miss what happens when two people, caught in routine, rediscover the warmth that brought them together in the first place. His hand stayed on my shoulder for just a second longer than usual. Not firm. Not forceful. Just enough to make my heart skip a beat. I looked up at him, waiting for him to say something, anything, but he didn't. He just stood there, almost like he was weighing something in his mind. That look. I hadn't seen it in a while. It wasn't just affection. It was something unspoken, a kind of longing, or maybe confusion. It made me hold my breath. I went back to folding a towel, just to distract myself. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he was just being kind. Or maybe he wanted to talk. But then again, if it was something important, why didn't he just say it? We've been going through a quiet patch lately. Not arguing. Not fighting. But also not laughing like we used to. Sometimes, marriage settles into a rhythm so still, it's hard to tell if it's peace or distance. And maybe both of us had felt it, but didn't know how to name it. He finally spoke, his voice lower than usual. Do you remember our first winter together? I nodded without looking up. How could I forget? Snow everywhere, thick and soft like a blanket. We were staying in that tiny apartment where the heater barely worked. He'd bring me tea, and I'd wrap myself in one of his hoodies. We were broke, cold, and completely in love. Everything felt new back then. That winter, he said, almost to himself, I thought I'd never feel lonely again. Something in the way he said it made my chest tighten. Was he saying he feels lonely now? Was I supposed to answer? I glanced up again, but he had already turned slightly, pretending to look out the window. I wanted to ask what was going through his mind, but I was afraid. Afraid of the answer. Afraid of breaking the silence in the wrong way. So instead, I folded another shirt and waited. Outside, the sun was beginning to dip behind the buildings. Shadows stretched across the floor like long arms reaching toward us. Inside, everything felt quiet, but not empty. More like something important was about to be said, but hadn't yet. And maybe the real question was, would we be ready for it when it came? Let me know in the comments, do you think love changes, or just hides when life gets too busy? Share your thoughts, or a moment when you felt your relationship shift in an unexpected way. I stayed quiet for a while, pretending to focus on the last few clothes in the basket. But inside, my mind was racing. That one sentence he said, "I thought I'd never feel lonely again," kept repeating in my head like a quiet echo. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but I was scared of what he'd say. What if he felt distant from me? What if he'd been feeling it for a long time, and I just didn't notice? He finally sat down on the couch, leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, and stared at the floor. His body was there, just a few feet away, but it felt like a whole room stretched between us. I folded the last t-shirt slowly, buying time. My heart was thudding in my chest, but I kept my face calm. We weren't always like this. There was a time when we couldn't stop talking, even about small things. What to cook, which movie to watch, how the day went. Somewhere along the way, life got louder and we got quieter. Jobs, bills, family calls, errands. It's not like anything went wrong. It's more like the space between us just slowly filled with other things. I sat on the edge of the couch, a safe distance away, and finally said, "Why did you bring up that winter?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I think I just miss how easy things were back then. You know? We didn't have to try so hard." I nodded, even though I wasn't sure if I agreed. Yeah, but life wasn't easier. We were just different. He looked at me, really looked, like he was trying to read something on my face. "Do you ever think we're just roommates now?" The question hung in the air, heavy and real. I wanted to say no. I wanted to laugh it off and pull him into a hug. But the truth was, I'd thought the same thing more than once. That maybe we were just coexisting, side by side, under the same roof, but not really seeing each other anymore. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from Lena, my best friend back home in Russia. "Did you talk to him yet?" it said. Talk to him about what? About how I'd been feeling out of place lately. About how I sometimes wondered if moving here was the right choice. I hadn't. I'd kept it all inside because I didn't want to burden him. Now, with that one question, are we just roommates now? It felt like we were standing on the edge of something important. Something that could either pull us closer or drive us apart. Have you ever had a moment like this in a relationship, where one honest question opened up a door you weren't ready to walk through yet? Let me know in the comments. Do you think they should talk openly now, or wait until the moment feels right? And what do you think Lena knows that might change everything? He didn't move. Neither did I. The room felt still, like the air itself was listening. That one question, are we just roommates now, still hung between us, and I could feel it pressing down on my chest. I wanted to say something, but everything I thought of either felt too dramatic or too small. So I just sat there, holding the folded shirt like it was some kind of shield. The message from Lena kept flashing in my mind. "Did you talk to him yet?" She knew I'd been keeping things to myself, how I missed home sometimes, how I wondered if this life was the one I really wanted. Not because I didn't love him, but because love didn't feel as simple as it used to. It was tangled now, wrapped up in sacrifice, silence, and pretending everything was fine when maybe it wasn't. He finally broke the quiet. "You've been somewhere else lately. Not just in your head. Like, emotionally gone." I looked at him then, and he was already watching me, waiting for something real. I could have lied. Said it was just stress. Or that I was tired. But something in his eyes told me he already knew the truth. Maybe not all of it, but enough to feel the distance growing, inch by inch, week by week. "I don't feel like myself anymore," I whispered. "Not here, not lately." There it was. The thing I was afraid to say out loud. The thing I hadn't even said to myself in clear words. And now it was out, floating between us. He didn't respond right away. His face didn't change much, but I saw it, just a flicker of something. Was it fear? Regret? Or maybe, something deeper? Before either of us could speak again, a knock came at the door. We both turned, surprised. It was late for visitors. I glanced at him, confused. He stood up slowly, almost hesitant, and walked over. My phone buzzed again just as his hand reached the doorknob. Another message from Lena popped up. I told him everything. Everything? What did she mean, everything? My heart started to race. I stood up, frozen halfway between the couch and the hallway. He opened the door. And that's when everything began to change. Comment below, what do you think Lena told him? Is it something that could bring them closer, or break everything apart? He opened the door slowly, and for a second, the hallway light blinded me. I stepped forward instinctively, heart pounding, still gripping my phone like it might explain everything. But when my eyes adjusted, it wasn't who I expected. It wasn't Lena. Standing there was a man, early 40s maybe, tall, in a dark coat, holding a small envelope. His expression was calm, but there was something unreadable behind his eyes. He looked past my husband and straight at me. "Are you Elena?" he asked, his voice quiet but clear. I nodded slowly, confused. My husband glanced back at me, eyebrows raised. "What's going on?" The man held out the envelope. "This is from Lena. She asked me to bring it to you. She said you'd understand." My hands were shaking as I took it. The envelope was unmarked, just my name on the front in Lena's handwriting. I wanted to open it right there, but something told me to wait. My husband thanked the man, who nodded once and walked off without another word. He closed the door, and the silence returned like a wave. I sat down on the couch, staring at the envelope in my lap. Everything in me wanted to tear it open. But I was afraid of what I'd find, afraid of what Lena might have told him, or what she thought she needed to tell me this way. "Do you want to tell me what that was about?" he asked, sitting down across from me. "I don't know," I said honestly. I didn't know she'd do something like this. "Who is he?" "I have no idea. I swear." He leaned back, rubbing his hand over his jaw like he did when he was trying to keep his emotions in check. I wanted to reach for his hand. I didn't. Then, before I could talk myself out of it, I opened the envelope. There were only a few lines on the page, written in Russian. My breath caught as I read them. "Tell him about that night in Sochi. He deserves the truth." I froze. My husband was watching me closely now, waiting. I couldn't even meet his eyes. That night. The one I promised myself I'd never speak of again. It wasn't what people might assume, it wasn't betrayal, not in the way others might think, but it was a secret. A heavy one. One that had shaped everything that came after. "I think I need to tell you something," I whispered, finally looking up. He nodded. "Yeah. I think you do." But before I could begin, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Lena. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize. One line. "You should have told him before I did." Everything inside me dropped. Someone else knew. And now, I had no idea who to trust. What do you think Elena is hiding? Who could be sending these messages, and why now? Let me know your theories in the comments. Could this twist bring them closer, or tear them apart for good? My hands were cold as I held the phone, reading that one line over and over. "You should have told him before I did." I looked up at my husband, who was now completely still, his eyes fixed on mine. There was no anger yet. Just silence. Waiting. I didn't cheat on you, I said quickly, needing him to hear that first. It wasn't anything like that. But I wasn't honest either. He didn't say a word, just nodded for me to go on. That night in Sochi, it was before I met you. I was supposed to fly home the next day, but I stayed an extra night. There was someone I met once. I didn't think much of it at the time, just a conversation. But a few months later, I got a letter. A birth certificate. I paused, watching his face, feeling every beat of my heart. I have a son. He's 6 now. He lives with my cousin in Russia. I never told you because I didn't think I could explain it. I was young. Scared. And when I met you, everything felt like a new life. I didn't want to bring that into it. He blinked, slowly, as if my words were dragging him underwater. You have a child? I nodded, tears blurring my vision. Yes. And I send money. I've always kept in touch. Lena's been helping. But now, I think someone else found out. Maybe his father. Maybe someone who wants something. The weight of it all hit the room like a storm. For a long moment, there was no sound but our breathing. Then he stood up, walked to the window, and pressed his hand against the glass. You should have told me. I could have understood. I was afraid you'd leave. I'm still here, he said, turning slowly. But I don't know what this means yet. We were both quiet again, holding on to the fragile thread between us. I stepped forward, heart pounding. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose us either, he said. Just as I reached for his hand, my phone buzzed again. This time, a picture. A blurry photo of a little boy. And standing behind him was a man I'd never seen before, but he was wearing my husband's jacket. He saw it too. And his face went white. Where did he get that? The story wasn't over. Comment your theories. Who is the man in the photo, and what does he want? He took the phone from my hand, staring at the picture like it didn't make sense, like his mind was trying to bend the logic into something it could handle. I stood frozen, every nerve in my body waiting for what he would say. But his silence was louder than anything else. That's my jacket, he finally said, voice low, almost to himself. But I've never seen that man before. Maybe it's a coincidence, I offered, though the words felt weak even as I said them. Or maybe someone found it, or bought it somewhere. You gave some old things to donation last year, remember? He nodded slowly, eyes still on the screen. Yeah, but this jacket. I only gave it away a few months ago. It was the one I wore on our honeymoon. The picture stirred something deeper now, memories, timelines, doubts. I sat beside him, not knowing what to feel. Was this man trying to send a message? Was it about my son, or something else entirely? We didn't have answers, but what we did have now was the truth. And maybe that was more powerful than the unknown. The next morning, after a long and sleepless night, we called Lena. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the guilt in it. She explained everything. The man was from my past, someone who had once claimed to be the boy's father, though he'd vanished long ago. Now, out of nowhere, he'd resurfaced, threatening to reveal everything if Lena didn't give him money. He never had proof, she said. But I think he's watching, trying to scare you. My husband sat next to me, holding my hand tightly. No more secrets. From now on, we deal with this together. We contacted the authorities, gave them what we had, and finally, after years of silence, I made arrangements to speak with my son directly. My husband was there, every step. And even though the past was messy, and the path forward was uncertain, something shifted between us. Not back to what we were, but something more honest. Real. Unfiltered by fear. Weeks passed, and the man never showed up again. Maybe he realized he had no power anymore. Or maybe, once the truth was out, there was nothing left for him to hold over us. The laundry basket still sat in the corner of the room, half forgotten. The place where it all started. Folding laundry, and finding the courage to unfold the truth. Let us know in the comments, how did this ending make you feel? Would you like a sequel to see what happens next in their journey? 2.